Welcome to day 3. Happy to see everybody was able to make it in today in lieu of some potential challenging weather. So we'll now consider item CM 25-19, 2026-2027 budget deliberations report. And I will ask Jim Nicol, acting city manager, to introduce the report.
Good morning, members of council, members of the public watching in person or online this morning, media and administration. As the mayor mentioned, today is day 3 of budget deliberations for the 2026-2027 budget. With the debate to begin this morning on the operating and capital budgets, I would like to take a moment to remind everyone of this year's budget report, which has culminated with this week's deliberations. This year, council adopted a different methodology to provide more transparency to members and residents with respect to developing the next budget. Administration has put in hundreds of hours preparing numerous budget-related documents. The numerous pages of charts, tables, and financial details that have been publicly shared, beginning in September with the first of 5 special council meetings, provided the detail and transparency that council and the public were seeking. And these documents have demonstrated the magnitude of civic services and operations. Taking care of roads and alleys, collecting garbage, managing rainfall, floods, and snowstorms, ensuring that toilets flush and water is safe to drink, offering enriching cultural programs and taking care of thousands of square feet of parks, clearing snow and getting people moving across the city, and that is just a few. This new process has provided the opportunity to illustrate the City of Regina's commitment to service in greater detail than ever before. Council and the public have had over 3 weeks to read and digest the budget forecasts that were released on November 20th, and Council is now faced with decision day. In response to Council's motions outlining potential mill rate adjustments and any consequential shortfall that would require program or service cuts, administration provided fulsome answers, complete with implications, all of which are outlined in Appendix M13. Administration has received both compliments and criticism about this approach that was taken to illustrate the decisions needed to reconcile any projected mill rate with the associated expenditure reductions required to produce a legislatively mandated balanced budget. I will respectfully remind everyone that the work done by administration was done at the specific direction of City Council. I want to ensure everyone, including various community members and organizations who appeared before Council on Monday and Tuesday of this week, as well as City staff, that any potential reductions that were brought forward were not done so lightly or without reservation. And we acknowledge the concern and anxiety that this may have caused residents, stakeholders, community groups, and staff. Administration's objective was to ensure that council and the public were provided with a fulsome understanding of everything that goes into running the city and what it costs to provide them on an annual basis. I'm sincerely grateful to administration and my colleagues on the executive leadership team for their professionalism, dedication, and tireless efforts in addressing council's direction. With that, I will turn it over to our CFO, Daren Anderson, to walk us through a presentation.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Your Honor and councillors. Today starts the final step in our budgeting process. All of us around and in this room, council and administration, are in a unique position and have been given a great opportunity. We have reached a fork in the road, and we get to shape Regina's path forward. In this presentation, I'm going to focus on where we are and where we are going. I will speak to the low tax burden on our residents. We are the most affordable city in Canada, and our low taxes are part of that. I will highlight the efficiency of city operations and give context to the never-ending questions of the size of government and is the city growing out of control. I will discuss why this is a fork in the road, our growing capital requirements, and shrinking reserves. I will speak to the cost to our residents of the council desired service levels included in the forecasted 15.69 mill rate increase. We have heard from residents both in this room and when we are out in the community. They represent their community and share their stories so we can understand how our decisions impact them. Increased services, along with decreased taxes, is a resounding message. How do we reconcile all these messages? Much like what I have done in the private sector for 30 years, I hope to provide some context and analytics to assist us in assessing where we actually stand so we can make informed decisions. So let's start with our municipal tax and expense levels and start to understand and build context around their size. We have tirelessly worked to keep municipal taxes low, doing our part in keeping Regina the most affordable city to live in Canada. However, we must acknowledge the inherent challenges the city has. Those challenges include Regina's comparatively small population. The cost of providing civic services is spread over 255,000 people, much lower than cities with similar levels of service. We have our own police force, fire department, transit system, and the largest connected conference facility in Canada. We provide big city service. In Ottawa and Calgary, the cost of similar civic service are shared by over 1 million residents. Regina is less dense, more spread out than most other cities. Per capita, we cover a large area that needs buses, snow clearing, waste collection, and all of the other civic services on which residents rely daily. Cities with more residents per square kilometer, such as Calgary, find cost efficiency by servicing more people in a smaller area. We do not have that luxury. Regina is built on heavy clay soil. As we know, that type of soil is not easy to work with. Added to that, Regina has to rely on a water source that is miles away, increasing our costs to pump clean water to residents and wastewater back to our wastewater facility. Despite all of those inherent challenges, the city has been able to keep taxes and expenses low. For context, we completed an analysis of benchmarking against 5 other municipalities that provide a comparable level of service. This showed that our municipal taxes are in the bottom 20%. That is a very low value given our inherent challenges. This comparison, which you can see in the chart here, is with cities of similar stature, and most importantly, cities that offer a very high level of municipal services that are not shared within a large metro area like Toronto and Vancouver. While municipal taxes have to increase every year, the burden on our residents remain one of the lowest in the country for the services we provide. We are an affordable city. Since we have all started working for the city, we have all heard from residents that we are inefficient and just need to cut the fat. In order to assess this, we engaged the same firm which did our efficiency review a few years earlier with a focus on analytics to see where the city may be inefficient. That report has been included with your budget package. This chart was part of that package. It shows the difference to the median from our benchmark cities. In the visualization, deeper shades of red indicate higher costs, and lighter shade of greens represent lower or leaner costs. As you can see, overall, we are a very efficient city, keeping expenses low across the service sectors. The areas that are high include the economic growth section, which includes our investment in land development, which other cities account for differently. We make profit on those investments. Next is governance and leadership, which is mayor and council and exec. This is a function of economies of scale. For instance, we have 400% more councillors per capita than Calgary. 1 councillor for every 25,000 people in Regina versus a councillor for every 100,000 people in Calgary. In contrast, I would like to highlight enabling services, which is in line with other cities. This highlights the fantastic job administration has done in continually finding efficiencies and being lean. Police is a touch higher than other cities, as discussed when the police were here early this week. As you will also notice, we are very efficient in our spending on transit, transportation, and service delivery and infrastructure support. Council and residents alike have asked if city expenses have grown out of control the past 10 years. The answer to that is an unequivocally no. Far from being bloated, city administration has done a remarkable job over the past decade of becoming leaner and more efficient. Today, we do more with less. It's as simple as that. We have diligently found efficiencies costing residents less than what we did a decade ago when you adjust for inflation and population growth. Looking back at 10 years of expenses from 2025 to 2024, $1 in civic expense in 2015 is equivalent to $1.48 in 2024. With that in mind, our general operating expenses in 2015 were $397 million. After adjusting that number for both inflation and population growth, that $397 million is equivalent to $588 million today. Our operating expenses in 2024 were budgeted at just $582 million. That is a $6 million efficiency gain. During the past 10 years, the city has found over $25 million in efficiencies. While keeping expenses below inflation and growth during this time, the city has added over $25 million in new services that it didn't have in 2015. $3 million increase in REAL's operating grant has grown further another $6 million, growing over 20 times since 2015. $17 million in operating costs for the new Mosaic Stadium over and above the cost of Old Taylor Field. $1 million in taking in tourism, and $3 million in support of community safety and well-being, plus another $3 to $5 million annually in council-directed service enhancements in accessibility, fire service, playgrounds, etc. The city has added new services, increased the scope of our work, all while finding savings and lowering the relative cost of our operations. Efficiency relies on culture. The efficiency culture at the city is very strong, and this is evidence of that. So how have my colleagues been able to do this? The city is doing more with fewer, 15% fewer. The number of staff for every 100 residents has been steadily declining, from 1.05 10 years ago to 0.9 today. Fewer people are accomplishing more by constantly searching for and implementing efficiencies. Far from going on reckless hiring spree, the city has been trimming down while increasing the level of service we provide to residents. On top of this, we have a very efficient number of managers and out-of-scope staff. Management represents only 5.45% of total FTEs and 4% of total employees. This is a very efficient number. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics states management roles typically represent 10 to 14% of employment, while McKinsey constantly states high-performing complex organizations have approximately 12.5% management. The city is not top-heavy, and in fact is very flat and efficiently managed. In fact, world-class. Furthermore, the salary increases of our staff have not, by and large, kept up with inflation. Over the last 10 years, with few exceptions that include police, firefighters, and mechanics, city staff, both in scope and out of scope, have not received salary increases that match inflation. This graph on this slide highlights several positions within the city with raises not meeting inflation in red and salary increases more than inflation in blue. Bus drivers, city planners, bylaw enforcement officers, construction workers, including managers and directors, have seen pay increases well below inflation. This slide provides a sample from every staff category and every union. As you can see, below inflation salary increases are the norm across the board. The few categories that have matched or outpaced inflation are outliers. Raises collectively bargained with fire and police have outpaced inflation. Cashiers have seen an increase in line more with recent minimum wage increases in the province, and journeyman mechanic salaries were adjusted to remain competitive with wages in the marketplace. Similarly, city councillors have received an adjustment that outpaces inflation to reflect the salary for their positions in the rest of Canada. On top of doing more with less, salaries are also providing efficiencies. Council has set a strategic imperative remaining in the lowest 25% municipal property taxes per capita among comparable cities. We can raise the mill rate by 10% while still meeting that strategic imperative. This context is very important in trying to determine what our tax levels are and where we are going. This allows us to cut through all the noise on what is a high tax rate. We need to assess our levels of service balanced with our tax rates. Being a high service city and a low tax city is not attainable over the long term. Neglecting asset maintenance and draining reserve dollars is not prudent, and finding more and more efficiencies to offset these coming capital costs is not plausible. So let's look at what is really putting upward pressure on property taxes. Regina has over $1.6 billion of facilities alone based on replacement value, not including libraries. Many were built in the 1960s and 70s and are coming to end of life. Taylor Field was replaced with a $300 million facility. The Lawson is being replaced with a $300 million facility. This is much more than replacement value. While admin has found efficiencies in core services, this slide tells us what is behind our raising taxes, and that is our aging infrastructure. The majority of the recent and forecasted growth in municipal taxes is due to capital projects, many of which are long overdue. Taylor Field, upgrades to our water network, building a much-needed new pool, capital maintenance on our roads and bridges, a new fire hall, and expanded police headquarters. We still have the Brandt Center, the public yard, the public works yard, the central library, the wastewater treatment facility, the Queensbury Center, the Stockman's building, etc. to go. The city's reserves, effectively our rainy day fund, are dangerously low and projected to be soon depleted if new revenue is not directed that way. Another contributor to forecasted tax increases. We used reserves to purchase the STC building for police headquarters, pay for upgrades at the Globe, and fund repayments to CRA on behalf of REAL and EDR. Reserves are necessary for the city to respond to unforeseen expenses and plan for the future. We have now reached a point where we need to start replenishing them or find ourselves unable to respond next time some pipes freeze or a roof leaks. We definitely can't fund our growing capital requirements with what we currently have. Now let's take a closer look at the tax increases forecast and how they will impact Regina household costs. There has been a lot of conversation around ability to pay and affordability on residents. This table shows the overall tax levels for different assessed property values with the full forecasted mill rate increase of 15.69%. As has been discussed around this room on many occasions, property taxes can be an ineffective method of collecting taxes from residents. That being said, it is the tool we have been given, and therefore we have to assess the impact on households and use analytics to determine the expected tax burden for our residents. The median or average household income in Regina is estimated to be approximately $100,000. The average household is highlighted in yellow, where the forecasted tax burden is only 2.9% of their total household income. For households in the top 15%, it is estimated to be approximately 2.3% of total household expenses. On the lower end of the scale, it is harder to place, but would fall somewhere between 2.3 and 4.5%. This analysis provides important context for us in assessing affordability. These amounts are very reasonable and do not indicate we would have an issue with affordability. There are obviously some households which fall outside the expected taxes per household, but these would be exceptions to the rule. To better contextualize these numbers, administration has forecasted the impact of this mill rate increase, as well as the impact of potential service enhancements, should council choose to pursue any, on Regina households. For 2026 and 2027, the first column represents estimated property tax increases for low, average, and high property value households. And the second column represents the same, but includes the cost of service enhancements. These enhancements are items that have not yet been approved but have been referred for consideration by council. In 2026, for the average assessed value of $324,000, a mill rate increase of 15.69% would correspond to property tax increase of $33 a month, or $396 a year. If council approves all the service enhancements, that would increase to about $40 a month, or $480 a year. For a lower assessed value of $250, the monthly property tax increase without service enhancements would be $25 a month, while for property values in the $500,000 range, tax increases would be $50 a month. With all the service enhancements, those numbers would increase to $30 and $61 a month, respectively. The median household under the current forecast would pay roughly $240 per month in municipal property taxes. This chart is a representation of what that median household pays for services. As you can see, the largest slice go to our police service, which received about $54 a month, and our capital budget, the funding for our infrastructure, which represents $36 per month. Other big categories are the core services the city provides: fire and protective services, transit, roadways, facilities, and parks. From police to cost, this is a cost of $178 per month, which is 3/4 of their tax bill. 23 different services make up the other 25% of their tax bill. Real, EDR, Mosaic Stadium, Rec and Cultural Services, community grants are just a few of those other items. This is a clear visualization of what previous slides have also shown. The city is very efficient in focused spending where residents see direct impacts. In fact, Mosaic Stadium costs more than the total of finance and legal combined. Council, the mayor's office, finance, legal, HR, communications, APRS, and tourism combined cost the median taxpayer under $20 per month. That is 1/3 the cost of police. We don't have large cohorts of disproportionately expensive staff or bloated community programs and cultural initiatives. We have a police and fire service that keeps our community safe and a large infrastructure gap that needs immediate financial investment. Administration has also created a list of potential service enhancements for council's consideration. Those enhancements adding budget for hybrid and refurbished buses, transit security, warming center funding, additional staffing for several city departments, and investments in new software and other tools to support the efficient delivery of civic services. Replenishing our reserves is also included on that list. As requested by council, administration also detailed the service implications, risks, and necessary service adjustments to achieve lower mill rate increases. Council requested scenarios for mill rate increases of 3.1%, 6%, 7.5%, and 9%, as well as an 18.5% reduction from the forecast. This additional information will give council increased transparency into the costs of running the city. We believe they will have the tools to make the best decisions in finalizing our 2026 budget. We have the absolute privilege of living in the city of Regina and being given the opportunity to make the decisions that make this city great. Council has set a strategic priority to remain in the lowest 25% of per capita taxes amongst our comparator cities. That requires us to stay below the city of Saskatoon. We can do this for 2026 with a tax increase of 10%. I would suggest that is a good starting point for our discussions today. With that, administration submits these reports for your review, and we are open for questions.